I want you to understand that as we study this book of Revelation, and we're going to get to, like I said, I think we're going to get to the Antichrist, we're going to get to 666, we're going to get to all the tribulation, we're going to get to, all the things that are going to happen, such as one world government, this religious system, the political system, the second coming of Jesus Christ. But I need to tell you that what we're studying right now in these 7 churches is the good stuff. Okay? This is the good stuff. And the reason why if we don't get what we're studying now as the good stuff, because he's speaking to the churches while we're here. After chapter 4:1, we're no longer here. We're gone. So all the stuff we're going to learn after that is going to happen on the earth, but it's not going to affect us because we're not here. But chapters 1, 2, and 3 affect us now. So that's why we need to spend the time looking at these verses, because this is what we need to understand now about ourselves. We need to understand about what's going on in the churches, our church in particular. We got to look and say, are we like any of this? Do we have the failings of the church at Ephesus that left their first love? Doctrinally sound, all the things they were doing, they were laboring hard, but they lost their love. And now the church at Smyrna, we're going to look at today, this is the prosecuted church, the hurting church, the suffering church. There's only 2 churches that God doesn't make any negative words to. He commends them. This is the church of Smyrna and church of Philadelphia. The other five churches, he has a lot to say about that. Okay? So, this is the good stuff. And so we have to ask ourselves, and I want us to think about this. Right here I wrote up Hope Community Church. God's writing to 7 churches, okay? And I want to say to the church of Hope Community Church, if he would ask us, as a church, if he'd send a letter to us and say, okay, I'm going to send a letter to all the churches. I'm going to send a letter to all the churches. I'm going to tell them what's going good. You're doing great here. Oh man, this is good. But you're not so good here. What would he say about us? What would he say about this if he wrote a letter to us? And so as we study the churches, we have the opportunity to correct anything that these churches say, oh yeah, that's us right there. We're kind of like that. It could all be fixed. I'd like to see us as a church like Smyrna or Philadelphia. I'm not saying we're not. I'm just saying we have to examine that. Okay? We all have to examine that. And that's a good thing. That's why, as we study the churches, that's for us, because after chapter 4, I believe, and I'll give my reasons why when we get there, why we're gone. So the only thing from chapter 4 to 19 until Jesus' return is, he's telling us what's going to happen to the earth without us being here. So it's nice to know, and it's going to be cool to, oh wow, this is going to happen, yeah. I mean, the climate, yeah, it's not going to be climate change from cars, it's going to be climate change because wrath. You mean all this is going to happen, is going to be, the economy's going to fall in an hour? Yeah. Really? And everybody's got to receive a mark on their hand or forehead? Yeah. But how's that us? We're gone. So don't get me wrong, it's good to understand these things, but what we're learning right now is so important that we can't miss it. That's why I get 55 minutes now to give you 4 verses. I'm going to cover 4 verses. This is my goal today, to cover these 4. And when you see it, because we're going to connect dots, and when you see what's taking place in Smyrna, which is the blessed church, it's going to help us see, and I'm hoping, well, you can do this anytime, but I'm hoping at the end, when we get to the end, this is a pinch moment. And if you guys were attending here for a while, you know what that is. You pinch yourself, no, I can't believe I'm a Christian. You mean I don't? You mean this is for me? You mean God did this for me? I keep forgetting to thank him almost every day for what he's done. Man, it's so it's always a reminder for us when we gather together to talk about him, that we say, Lord, just let me thank you again just thank you for saving me. Let me thank you that I'm not going to be a part of the wrath of God that's going to hit this earth. The wrath of Satan is going to get to me. He's going to try and get me, but not the wrath of God. And I'll prove that to you too as we go through the text, comparing Old Testament with New Testament. Okay? Let's look at our text. This is verse 8. And to the angel of the church at Smyrna write, these things says the first and the last, who was dead and came to life. I know your works, your tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes shall not be hurt in the second death. There is so much here. We see Satan, we see the devil, we see him mentioned twice. We see the tribulation, we see you're poor yet you're rich. What? We see a second death. You're not going to be hurt in a second death. I mean, there's so much here for us to view. That's why I got to take our time through this. And let me give you now, let me step back from this. And remember the map. I didn't bring my map. Do you remember the map I gave you guys of the churches? Only Ephesus is the one that, you can't find them in your Bible. Ephesus you can, there's written in Ephesians. But then we have Smyrna and we have Philadelphia. You go, well, how'd they come about? How comes they're in Asia? Well, it's pretty neat. And if you like to write in your Bible, if you like to write this, right there at the persecuted church, or even anywhere in here, Acts 19:10. Because here's how I feel, this is my view, of how the gospel came to these churches. Remember, Paul was in Ephesus, and that was the first church we looked at. But in Acts 19, verse 10, go in there, Carl. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Look at Acts 19:10. He said, and he was there for 2 years, Paul in Ephesus. So that, what did he say? All who dwelt in Asia, this is a whole bunch of churches, 7 churches in Asia Minor, and he's saying, all the churches in Asia, or all that dwelt in Asia, heard the word of the Lord, both of Jesus, both Jews and Greeks. So there we have a verse. Well, how did they get the gospel? It doesn't say anything about the missionary journeys to these churches. How did they get the gospel? And remember, it's 35 miles from Ephesus to Smyrna, about 35 miles. And so Paul is saying, listen, I was 2 years in Ephesus, but I just didn't stay there. Maybe he went, maybe other people that came and heard Paul said, I got to go back to Smyrna. I'm going back to Philadelphia. I'm going back to Laodicea. I'm going back to Thyatira. I'm going back to Pergamum. I'm going back to Sardis. I'm going back to my church. And here's a letter for you. Take this to your church, because the Lord's writing to your church. And so if anybody ever would ask you, as you study the Bible, how did these churches start? We don't know. But this verse says, we know during Paul's time in Ephesus that all those who dwelt in Asia heard the word of God. So that's pretty cool. That connects the dot. So as we come to this church, the second church, and we still have 6 more churches to talk about, it's nice to know, okay, how did they really start? So this one's called the suffering church, or the persecuted church. And during this time, if you were a Christian, you were burned at the stake. You were dropped in boiling oil. You were fed to lions. You were tortured. This was really bad experience under the Caesars and what was happening to Christians here. We in the Western Hemisphere know nothing about that. We don't know about how to suffer. And don't get me wrong. We experience suffering just like poor Bill's experienced suffering. We experience suffering in our world. We experience suffering for the loss of loved ones. We suffer when a pet. I remember when my dog Charlie died. I mean, that suffering, it hurts. There's things in our world that cause us to suffer, and it hurts. And I'm not diminishing that at all. But here in this church, he's going through, man, this hurts. They're getting really burnt. And the Lord is saying to this church, listen, I got something to say to you guys. No condemnation at all to this church. He says, you guys are really holding on. Persecution for the word of God will always strengthen you. 100%. When you're persecuted, you will be strengthened. It's during tribulation. You think about this. During the tribulations in your life, as a believer, don't you turn to God even more? Lord, I just need to, Lord, help me. I got this sickness now, or somebody's hurt, or Lord, now we're going to go. When I put out for both my Bible studies I have, I think the one I have Thursday nights, and then Gary's group, I sent a message for 6 o'clock to pray. I sent a message, let's pray at 6 o'clock. And there's people praying all over for the election. And hopefully you guys prayed, because Christine and I got down by our bed on our knees at 6 o'clock, right on the button. We're praying for, okay, Lord, please, may your will be done, but look what has he done. And when I heard then what Trump said, that I heard this yesterday, that he's going to bring prayer back to school. He's going to get rid of the Department of Education. I mean, whether he could do that or not is another thing, but when he said, we're going to become patriotic in our schools again, and when you hear things like that, you go, well, Lord, I hope he can get it done, because we have an opportunity here. And of course, I want to be absolutely clear, my hope's not in Donald Trump. But if God's going to use Donald Trump, we got to pray to that end. And so that's what's going on there. So God be the glory for all that. Okay, so persecution's coming. This is persecution now, and we know in the future, from here on, during the tribulation, there's going to be so much persecution that anyone that turns to Christ will be killed. You will die for your faith. You will die. In order for you to live through the tribulation, you'll have to die for your faith, unless you could hide in some hole and someone feed you, because you can't buy nor sell unless you receive a mark. And you will be hunted down. And when we get to Revelation 20, you'll see the martyred ones, because there's going to be more people saved during the tribulation than there was at any time in history. And so that's why I count it for my loved ones that if we go, I'm hoping they come to Christ during that time. And they will have an opportunity, but they'll have to die for the faith. And so persecution is definitely coming. But Scripture always links persecution with strength. When I am weak, can anybody finish the verse? Then I'm strong. When I'm weak, when I'm going through this, persecution brings purity. That's what Jesus said. Jesus told us in Matthew chapter 5, he says, listen, persecution is good, and it's going to help you. In John, and let me just give you some verses. In John 16:13, he says this, in the world you will face tribulation. Be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. He's overcome it. Acts chapter 14, Luke writing, Acts chapter 14:22. We must go through many tribulations to enter the kingdom of God. Paul wrote in Timothy, 2 Timothy 3:12, yes, in all who desire to live godly in Christ, if you desire to live godly in Christ, you will suffer persecution. You just go anywhere and just start reading, name the name of Christ. You got to repent, turn from your sin. You'll be turned down, cursed down, yelled at, screamed at. Maybe you get in a fight. Just look at some of the YouTubes of people that do stuff like that. You take a stand for Jesus, you will be attacked. James says, my brethren, listen, just count it all a joy. What? Count it all a joy if you go through various trials. Because it's during these trials and during your testings you're going to receive patience. Just stay strong. In these little 4 verses, we have Satan and the devil both mentioned. Satan's mentioned and the devil's mentioned. Because he wants everybody, he wants to attack. He's attacking here. And the Lord is saying, yeah, Satan wants you guys. He wants to attack. He wanted a lot of people in the Bible. We'll just get to it in a moment. So, as we go down through this verse by verse, let me give you some background about this church, or the city of Smyrna. First of all, the name comes from myrrh. It actually means myrrh. And we know that was used when Jesus was suffering. They gave him myrrh. It was one of the gifts he'd been given. It was 35 miles. Today it's called Izmir, I-Z-M-I-R. It's a seaport of 200,000. Out of these 7 churches, it's the only city left that has a church in it. But it's like Greek Orthodox, and there's a Catholic church there. They're persecuted with Muslim. It's a Muslim nation. So they're persecuted for that in Turkey. But there's also Coptic Christians there and so on. So none of the churches none other city of these cities you can't find a church that I know of. But this church is still there. There's still churches in this city, which is a city of 200,000. Here's what they had. They had temples for this. They had temples for Zeus. They had a temple for Aphrodite, who was the goddess of love. They had a temple for Apollo, the god of light. They had a temple for Asclepius, the god of healing. They had Cybele, Ray, the goddess of the earth. And then they had emperor worship, where you, as I said last week, once a year you had to take a pinch of incense and proclaim Caesar as Lord. And if you had to do that, if you were going to be a religious group, you had to then proclaim that. You had to proclaim, to be able to function, you had to proclaim Caesar's Lord. And if you didn't do that, you would suffer. And so the Church of Smyrna says, we're not doing that. Jesus is Lord. And so they're going to suffer and they're going to be attacked and so on. You know, if you don't talk about Jesus, you could probably live a better life. If you don't talk about Jesus to people, they might still like you, or at work, or anywhere. If you don't talk about Jesus and just tell people, they might say, oh, good, we don't need to talk about religion. We don't have to talk about that. But if you begin to start talking, if you have some really staunch unbelievers or woke people or whatever you want, and you start talking about Jesus, you instantly got an enemy. They'll be mad. They're fighting words, man. You speak about Jesus, you know, you just prove it. Just go somewhere. The next day, wear a mega hat around. Wear a mega hat on the airplane. You want to say that's suffering for Trump? You know that you wear that, you do that, you'll suffer for it. You put a flag out, someone might try to steal it. I mean, whatever. You do something, and for what you stand on, you're going to make some enemies. So if you stand for Jesus, he's saying you're going to suffer for that one, pal. You're going to go through it. You're going to have to go through some great suffering. See, there's a process. There's a process to be more like Christ. Part of the process to be more like Christ is going through suffering. If I want to be like Christ, if I say, Lord, I want to be like Christ, do you recognize how much Christ had to suffer? That's why he said, disciples, we're going to do what you do. The Lord said, are you willing to bear that burden? Are you really willing to say what you're saying? Lord, I want you to be glorified in my life. Okay, you know how I'm going to glorify myself? Through this problem over here. I'm going to glorify myself through something you don't get to pick. Will I still be your God? Will I still be your Lord if you're going through this? What are you going to do then? You know, Jacob said, Lord, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to rest. Okay, Jacob, the rest of your life, you're going to walk with a limp. But I'm going to use you. You know, Daniel, you know what, Daniel, you're going to have to go through some lions. You're going to through some rough time. You still pray for me? They're going to see you praying, and guess what they're going to do with that? They're going to throw you with the lions. John, Peter, you speak any more in his name, we're going to beat you. Okay? They beat Paul, we're going to throw you in the innermost prison. You start speaking, Jeremiah, stop speaking for God. I'm going to throw you in a pit. Again, you take a stand for Jesus, you're going to be in trouble and you will be persecuted, but it will make you strong. It will make you strong. My first time ever out of this country, I told this story before, let me just give a brief. First time ever out of this country, I was never in Mexico, Canada, I went to Nassau, Bahamas, went in the ghetto at night, it's dark. They threatened to kill me my first night there. Never anywhere, my first night there, I was surrounded, they wanted to kill me, and I had a Bible in my hand. I said, you could kill me, but Jesus still died for you. That was my scarecrow in my life, that was my scarecrow. Do I ever go, get me out of here, Lord, I don't want to ever go back there again, they don't like me, they don't want me, why am I doing this? Get me home, let me go back, I'm going back to Reese's Candy Company where I was working, this is it. Within 10 months, I'm living there as a missionary. That was my scarecrow. God says, you got to get through the scarecrow. And if you get through the scarecrow, you know there's all the blessing you want. A scarecrow can't hurt you, but I don't know that. I think it could hurt me. No, it can't hurt you. You got to get beyond it. So you got to move beyond that. And if you do, if you get beyond that, there's so much blessing. And that's what God's telling this church. You're going to go through some things. You're going to go through. But you know what? I'm going to be here for you. So let's look at our text. To the angel of the church of Smyrna, he says, these things says the first and the last who was dead and came to life. First thing, Jehovah's called the first and the last. If you like to write these verses down, Isaiah 41:41. Isaiah, these are all in Isaiah. Isaiah 41:41, Isaiah 44:6, Isaiah 48:12. I am the first and the last. That simply means he's saying, I am in complete control. I have control over everything. Now here it is, Jesus saying, wait a minute, I'm the first and the last. Do you ever speak to a Jehovah's Witness or someone who doesn't believe in deity? Say, hey, who's the first and the last? It says in Isaiah, who's that talking about? That's Jehovah. That's Jehovah God. Oh, well, who's this in Revelation? Who's the first and the last here? Two people can't be the first and the last. Oh, that's Jesus. Their main verse, Isaiah 43:11. You're my witness, saith the Lord. Beside me there is no Savior. Jehovah speaking. Luke 2:11. Unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior who's Christ the Lord. Wait a minute. Oh, no, time out. They can't be. No, he's God. He's God. See, in the beginning, John 1:1 was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 5:46. You believe Moses? You believe me because Moses wrote of me. Wait a minute, how Moses wrote of you? Oh, and by the way, John 8:58, I tell you the truth. Before Abraham was, I am. And they said, you're not even 50 years old and you've seen Abraham? He always was. You see, he's God in the flesh. John 10:30, I and my Father are one. I and my Father. Who can say that? John 17:5, and he says this, and now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. He's the first, and he's the last, and he's the one who's speaking. So look what he says. I was dead. Look, I was dead and came to life. We're the opposite. We're completely opposite. We're alive, right? And we're going to die. We're alive, and we're going to die. Jesus said, I was dead, now I'm alive. Who could make himself alive? God. Who could just fall over dead and say, oh, by the way, wake up in here. Time to get up. You're dead, you're dead. You can't get back up. Jesus said, listen, I was dead, but I became alive. Everybody else is alive and becomes dead. Every one of us in this room, unless the Lord comes back, all of us that are alive, we're all going to be dead. Jesus said, I was dead, but I'm alive. And by the way, I'm alive forevermore. There's nothing you can do about it. So, why? What is he saying to us then? When Jesus, remember he said this, he says, I have the power to lay my life down, and I have the power to take it up again. No one takes my life. No one's taken my life from me. Are you kidding me? In fact, I could call 72,000 angels, 12 legions. I could call 12 legions of angels, 6,000 times 12. I could call 72,000 angels right now, and it only took one to kill 185,000 back in the Old Testament. But, I could call 12 legions. You guys think you have power over me? Pilate, you think you have power over me? You have no power that the Lord allowed you to have. Any king has no power that the Lord allows him to have. Nebuchadnezzar had to learn that the hard way. Every leader has to learn that the hard way. You know, something as we're studying the book of Esther, it was only 10 or 12 years later after Esther went before the king that King Xerxes, Ahasuerus, same guy, he's assassinated. He gets assassinated, the king from Esther. That's for another time. Okay. So he died and he came alive. Everybody else is alive and dies. Let's keep going. Verse 9. He says, I know your works. Let that sink in for a minute. So whatever we did this week, God could say, Mac, I know what you did. I know what you did last Monday, Tuesday. I know you went to Gary's. I know you went to, I know what you did. I know what you thought. I know where you went. I know what you, if you got mad, if you got happy, if whatever you, I know your works. I know everything. I know everything about you. Everything. I know everything. He's telling his church, I know your works, your tribulation. I know you're under pressure. I know you're going through a hard time. This word, this affliction or tribulation, the word here is thalipsis. It's the Greek word. It means this. It means to pressure or to crush. That's what the word means. He says, I know. If you want the Greek spelling, I'll give it to you. It's thalipsis. It's T-H-L-I-P-S-I-S. T-H-L-I-P-S-I-S. It means to be under pressure, to be under anguish, you're under all this intense being crushed. And he's saying, I know what you're under. I know what you're facing. I've been there. When the Lord says, in the world, when he said in John 16:33, in the world you will have tribulation. You will have this pressure. But be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. So we're all going to face in our world this pressure, this stress, this. And so he's telling, I know what you're going through. This should be comforting for us whenever we're going through a rough time. If God says, listen, I've been there. I know, look, they beat me, they spit on me. You know what they did to me? I've tasted death. I've been there. I know what it's like for people, all your friends turn against you. I know what one of your people betray you. I know whatever you're going through. I know when John the Baptist died, that hurt. I know what you're going through. And so when the Lord says this, he's speaking to this church, and this church is hurting. How comforting is this to know when Jesus says, I know what you're going through. I know exactly what you're going through. I've been there. I felt it. This is what's so neat about Jesus, man, God becoming man. that he felt the infirmities. All that we go through, he's gone through. So, have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? Jesus never even sinned. Have you ever been cursed out? Have you ever been spit on? Have you, all the things that he did, that he could say, listen, I know your pressure, I know. When Jesus was in the garden sweating sweat of blood, Lord, if there's any other way, remove this cup, because he was taking on the sin of all of us. And he stayed there for you and I. You see, he knows what you're going through. And that should comfort all of us. When he tells, in all these churches, he's going to say, I know what you're doing, I know. Believe me, I know. And it's nice if someone just knows. When we're hurting, sometimes you don't have to say anything, just, do you know how bad I hurt? Do you even know? And God is saying to all of us in these times, I know exactly what you're going through. And then he says, look what else he says, I know your poverty. I know your poverty. This word means indigence. It means a level of hardship. You're going through a hardship right now. And then he says in the same breath, your poverty, you have nothing. They couldn't buy us. They couldn't even do anything because of, you had to sign a contract to run your basic religion in this city. You had to, again, get that pinch of incense, and they couldn't do any of that stuff. So getting a job or doing something, he says, I know that you guys have nothing. Then he says, but you're rich. What? You have nothing. I know your poverty, but you're rich. What does he mean by that? It sounds like a contradiction. When I go to Haiti, oh, you guys have nothing. You're so poor. No, we're rich. It all depends where you're looking at for what's poor and what's rich. What's your definition of that? That's the whole key. You see, do we know, no matter where we are in the economic battle for whatever, do we know how rich we are? Like, when I go to Haiti or go to Jamaica or these countries, they say, you're all rich. And it's true, we are, comparatively speaking. But really, are we rich towards God? Do you realize, and do I realize, that we have already been blessed with all spiritual blessings from God? Ephesians 1, verse 3. Already have every blessing we get. We just don't tap into it. It's all there already. So in terms of poverty, in terms of rich, Carl, could you pull up 2 Corinthians chapter 6? In 2 Corinthians chapter 6, starting at verse 9 there. It says, as you're unknown, like, who are we? We're unknown. We're not running for office. No one knows us much. Yet well known. You see, other people might not know you or who you are, but God says, I know who you are. I know exactly who you are. That's why in heaven the first be last and the last shall be first. God knows. God knows who's really there serving him. He says, as dying, yet you're going to live. As chastened and yet not killed. As sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. As poor, yet making many rich. As having nothing, yet possessing all things. Having nothing but possessing all things. That's a pinch time. What we have in Christ is greater than anything we can ever have. You see, when you read the Bible, you see, in most cases, not all, to be rich was a curse. Remember the rich young ruler? The Lord came to him and he says, what do I need to do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? He says, go sell what you have and come follow me. Oh, I can't do that. See ya. Remember Lazarus and the rich man? Lazarus was begging for sores and begging for just a little piece of bread and begging for... Rich man died, Lazarus died. What happened? Reversed. Now the rich man's begging for just a drop of water. And the Lord says, remember in your lifetime. Remember how it was in your lifetime. What did you do? Another guy says, oh, see, I have many goods. Let me eat, drink, and be merry. Let me make bigger barns for my stuff. Eat, drink, and be merry. The next verse says, yeah, but tonight your soul's going to be required of you. Then whose things will those be? Pretty amazing. But I'm not saying riches is bad. I'm just saying riches, it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom. The Bible says that. But if you're willing, let's look at two people. Joseph was in Egypt, Moses was in Egypt. Moses was to leave all the riches of Egypt to go serve God. Joseph was told to stay in Egypt because he was going to use his influence to help the people of God. So if you're in Egypt, type of the world, and you're doing well in the world, then use that to help people in the world. Find Jesus. If you feel like, no, I can't be a part of this, then get out of it. Both are in God's will. One stayed rich, one gave up everything to become poor for the sake of God. Who did God's will? Both. So here we have these, and here he says, yes, listen, you're poor, but I'm telling you, you're rich. And he says, back to our text, and I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, for are the synagogue of Satan. You guys are going to suffer. This is the suffering you're going to go through. Oh, by the way, here. They know you're blaspheming. There's slander against them. Evil speaking. And the Greek word, you ready for this? The Greek word for slander or blasphemy is blasphemia. It's B-A-L-S-P-H-E-M-I-A. It's evil speaking. They were speaking of them evil from an evil standpoint and from the synagogue of Satan. Satan is the one attacking their character. Satan is the one. Satan inspires opposition to Christianity. Did you hear what I just said? Satan inspires opposition to Christianity. That's what he does. Do you ever feel like you're in the synagogue of Satan where you're being attacked for being a Christian? That's why our fight is not against flesh and blood. Our fight is against powers and principalities and rulers in darkness. We're not right. They don't even know what they're doing. When people go against the God, they're completely blinded. 2 Corinthians 4:4, the God of this age has blinded their minds lest they come to the truth. They're blinded. And so we fight against rulers and powers and Satan and demons. That's our fight. And so when he says, listen, I know the blasphemy of those who say they're believers, Jews, and are not, but they're the synagogue of Satan. They say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. People say, I'm a believer. Yeah, really? Yeah, but what you're doing is you got to accept everybody, love. You got to marry. If it doesn't matter who you need to marry, anybody that wants to get married, you just love. And they'll be slandering if you don't. They'll be slandering. And so here in this church, they all had to register. And you know, when Jesus was on the earth, he said about the Father, he says, if you call me Father, you say your Father's God. If you knew who your Father was, you'd know who I was. John 8:42. And so, anyway. So they're in the synagogue of Satan, and they're going to suffer for his name's sake. They're going to suffer, experience pain. They're going to, there's a bishop who was a disciple of John, born around 60-something A.D. He was now 86 years old. His name was Polycarp. Polycarp was 86 years old. And they told him, you renounce Jesus or die. And he says, for 86 years, he has never done me wrong. And he would not proclaim Caesar as Lord. And they says, you will burn at the stake. That week he had a dream that he was going to burn at the stake. So when they put him to burn at the stake and lit the fire, it kept going out. It kept going out. They couldn't burn him at the stake. So he told the soldiers, go stab that guy. And they went over and killed him. Because of his faith. He was going to suffer for what he is. There's going to be a time of testing, in the synagogue. And this is going to be a time of testing. Look at verse 10. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. And Polycarp was the pastor of this church. He's going to suffer. He was pastor here at Smyrna. A disciple of John. And he would die. Indeed, the devil is about to throw you in prison that you may be tested. And you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Here we have Satan attacking. Satan wants to destroy you. Let me just give you some examples, again, more examples of this. Remember when Jesus was on the earth, he said, now remember, Simon's name was changed a lot. Peter. The word Simon's name means hearing. That's what it means. The word Peter means stone or rock. It's not Petros, the big one, the big stone rock. It's stone, basically. Peter. So when Jesus said Peter, when the Lord knew Peter was going to deny him. So it says in Luke chapter 22:31, here's what it says. He didn't call him Peter now, he called him Simon, hearing. He said, Simon, Simon, Satan has desired to have you that he may sift you like wheat. Who does Satan want? I got to get the sign. Paul, in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 says, a messenger of Satan came to buffet me. A messenger of Satan came to attack me. Job, what happened to you? Yeah, Satan came down and Satan hit me hard, man. He took my 10 children. He took my wealth. He took my health. He took everything. He even had my wife want to curse me and die. It's going to attack. David, Carl, pull up 2 Chronicles 21:1. Remember David? Now, here's God's king, a man after God's own heart, right? 2 Chronicles 21:1. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 Chronicles, my bad. 1 Chronicles, I'm sorry. Yeah, David's already gone. This is the next set of kids. Okay, look what it says. Now Satan stood against Israel, and what did he do? He moved David to number Israel. Because of that, a plague would come and kill about 70,000. What happened? Satan stood up against Israel and moved. Moved who? Who did he move? Who did he want to work on? David. To number Israel. Satan desires to have you, like he did Peter. Satan desired Paul. Satan desires all of us. He wants to destroy us. You are of the synagogue of Satan. The devil is out to get you and me. That's what he wants to do. He wants to wipe me out. I know that. I can't imagine all the times where I could have been dead. But that's the Lord's doing, though. He keeps us alive. And he says, you know what he says? He says, listen, the devil's about to throw you in prison that you may be tested when you're in tribulation. He wants us, and here's how we fight him. We need to know the power, okay? That says, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. That's, again, Ephesians 6, starting at verse 11 and so on. Put on the whole armor of God. Satan has to be resisted. The word resist means to, we're going to fight against it, means to stand against, to oppose. We need to stand against Satan. Here's how we do that. In James chapter 4, verse 7. James 4, verse 7. There's an order here. Therefore, submit to God. You just can't take the Satan. I've said this many times. If Satan comes to the door and knocks on the door and I answer it, I'm in trouble. But if I say, Lord, will you get that? Can you get the door, please? I can't handle an angel. How can I fight against something like that? He says, listen, when this happens, you resist the devil. First, draw near to God. You draw near to God. Submit to God. And Satan has to flee. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he has to run away. He has to go. That's how we fight him. Because what did Peter write? He says, Satan's like a roaring lion, walking about, doing what? Seeking, anybody know the verse? Seeking whom he may devour. He's after me and he's after you. He's looking around. Who can I get today? Who can I take down? Who am I going to attack today? Who got a weak one there? Let me see. If I can't get to them, maybe I can throw in their family members. Let me get to somebody. He's doing this. He's walking around seeking whom he may devour. And the Lord says this, back to our text. He says, so the devil is about to throw some of you in prison that you may be tested and you'll have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death and I will give you the crown of life. They're going to be thrown into prison. But there's one statement that begins in verse 10. I want to go back to verse 10. What does it say? Do not fear any of those things. What? Do not fear any of those things. Over 360 times. Probably the most commanded statement in all the Bible. In all the Bible. Do not fear. Do not fear, do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. In fact, someone said there's at least 366, one for every day of the year, including leap year. Do not fear, do not fear, do not fear. We do not have to be afraid of this. We're not to fear. And so we know we're going to be attacked. This is part of it. Do not be afraid. In fact, Peter would write this thing, the testing of your faith is more precious than gold. Gold's up to what, $2,700 an ounce? Would you rather gold or rather some trials? Would you rather say, hey, give me some gold, I don't want the trials. God says, let me tell you something, the trials of your faith are more precious than gold that perish. It all depends what you're thinking about. When Jesus is the Lord of your life, you can face anything. When he's Lord, you can face anything. See, folks, we're here not to get the riches of this world. We're here to get the riches of Christ. Let that sink in for a minute. What was it Kennedy said is not what you can do for, not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for the country. right? Kenny said back there, I still remember him saying that, I was old enough. What can Christianity do for me, or what can I do for Christianity? What can I do for Christ? What can I do? Do I serve the Lord? Will it be an inconvenience to serve the Lord? Is it inconvenience by taking the time every day to read this book? Is it inconvenience to take the time every day to pray? Is it an inconvenience for me to talk to someone, or help somebody, or help a neighbor, or make a meal? It's inconvenience me. We're supposed to look for every opportunity we can. Lord, how can we serve you? How can we help you? What can we do for you? And the opportunities are everywhere. We just got to see them. But we could go through our world like this, and God's showing us all these opportunities. He wants to expand that and say, look over here, you can do something here. You can help over here. This guy needs help. She needs this. What can you do? That's how God wants it. So he sees this, and God says, listen, you're going to be attacked. This is what's going to happen to you at church, but I want you to know that you're going to be faithful. You can stay faithful. That's why he has no condemnation for this church. They're standing strong in light of that. These false believers that are there, they're claiming they're Jews. They're not Jews at all. They were enemies of Christ. They were enemy of the Messiah. But one day, everybody's going to realize exactly who Jesus is. Let's go back to our text. He says, you remain faithful, be faithful unto death, this is the end of verse 10, and I will give you the crown of life. I didn't want to hand this out earlier because I didn't want you guys to be looking down at it. I'm giving you here all the crowns, the 5 crowns that will be earned. Here's the 5 crowns that could be earned. That guess what we get to do? We get to put them at Jesus' feet. And Carl has them up here, the same paper. Okay? You guys can either follow, you can look at it later, because everything's written down for you. They were all blank, and you know what I did this morning? I filled in all the blanks for you and said, you know what, I'm going to give them the finished product. But I was afraid if I gave it to you beforehand, you'd be reading this thing and then you wouldn't be on your money. Remember my circles? I remember my circles? I had this thing back here in the middle, back here. So, he tells us now here, look, you're going to receive a crown of life. This is one of the 5. So I wanted to explain to you what these crowns mean, what they are. The crowns were always a symbol of victory. It's the Greek word Stephanos. And I gave you that on that paper. That is not diadema. Diadema is the kingly crown. And I gave you where that's found. The diadema crown is found in 12:3. Satan has that. 13:1. Satan thinks he's in victory. And then in 19:12, Jesus has that. That's the diadema, the great crown. What we're talking about here is this one. So this should be the diadema, the kingly crown of these verses, just so we're clear. The diadema crown, where Satan comes out of the pit and he thinks, I'm the king, and the Lord comes back as King of Kings and Lord of Lords with his crown. Satan's, and that'll be destroyed, his crown. So here it was a Stephanos, a wreath award given at Isthmian Games and Olympic Games, that you've got a crown. If you won, you get a crown. This is where it talks about this. You want to receive a crown. And so crowns are going to be thrown back at Jesus' feet. When we get to heaven, any crowns we earned, we get to put back at his feet. And I, for one, don't want anybody here go empty-handed. I don't want to go empty-handed, to put crowns at his feet. So what are these crowns and how could they be earned? This is why, if it says here, be faithful in this and I will give you the crown of life, what are these crowns? So the first one here in your outline is the incorruptible crown, found in 1 Corinthians. Pastor Kirk alluded to this morning. That's where you keep your body under subjection. You keep your body under control. Carl, could you turn to that one? 1 Corinthians 9:24. Why? So all could win. This isn't me against you. This is for everybody involved in the Lord. This is done by strict training. This deals with what you do in your body, keeping your body in shape. But look what he says. He says, do you not know that those who run in a race all run? We're all running. But one receives the prize. Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prizes is intemperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown. But we for imperishable crown. I got medals and trophies at home. I don't even know where they are. I probably threw them away. You know, back in the day when you got a medal for doing something, or a race I won, or for football, when I got something, I got some trophies. Back then it was a big deal. Today, that's a piece of metal and what? That's why I tell people, listen, I play football, and I love playing football. Our team was undefeated my junior year, and I scored a long touchdown, broke the school record for a touchdown. I tell everybody, listen, I would rather have learned a musical instrument. I'm serious. I wish I would have learned a musical instrument than play football. And I love football. And I go, man, because I did all my time, and I got, like I said, awards for my sports, but if I could learn to play the piano, I'd just love to sit there and play the piano right now. Something that could last. You know, back in the day, I had a 41-inch vertical. I could dunk a basketball. Now it's like 3 inches. Where does it get you? Where does it go? See, they're incorruptible. They're corruptible crowns. They're perishable. Therefore I run thus, not as uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the air. But what do? I discipline my body and bring it in subjection, lest when I preach to others, I myself should be disqualified. It's like me telling you to stay healthy. Hey, listen, guys, you got to take care of your lungs and heart. You got to, you gotta watch what you intake. Can I have another piece of pie, please? You gotta be careful. Lest when I preach to others, I'm disqualified. Who am I to say if I'm not practicing? And so that's an incorruptible crown. It lasts forever. That's your physical test. The next one is a crown of rejoicing. This is the soul winner's test. This is the people that you talk to Jesus. And you don't have to be the one to lead them to the Lord. You have to be one maybe that waters it or digs around or plants it. Maybe you're not going to get the increase. I can tell you many people that I have led to Christ that I really had nothing to do with it. I just saw the fruit of it at the very end. And whoever was praying for them and talking to them and witnessing them all these years, then I come along and say, you know what? You really need Jesus right now. And you got to receive him as your Savior. Really? Yeah, you got to receive him. We can do that right now. Yeah, I want to receive Jesus. And everybody says, wow, man, I didn't know. Great. How about all the people that did all the work? You know, people have given me tomatoes. I like tomatoes. But I didn't do any of the work. Some people planted and did all the work and fertilized it and watered it and weeded it and did all this work, and they say, hey, here's some tomato. You see, God knows. And so what we do for him is a crown of rejoicing, because it doesn't matter if you're the one that watered it, if you're the one that planted, God gets the increase. He gets the reward. And he says, I'll reward you a soul winner's crown to put back at my feet. The third one, crown of righteousness. This is for all those who love his appearing. This is people that want to see him to come back. This is the person that says, well, Lord, wait a minute, my daughter's getting married in 3 months, come back after that. No. Well, Lord, come back after this. Let me just watch the Super Bowl one more time, then come back. Or let me see the Phillies win the World Series, then come back. No. You know, we want him to come back because you know he's going to fix everything. And we need to see that. Our crown of rejoicing and righteous, our crown of righteousness are for those who love his appearing. It says that, by the way, in 2 Timothy 4:8. You could read that. For all those, he's going to give a crown of righteousness for all those who love his appearing, faithfully doing what is right. The fourth one, the crown of glory, 1 Peter 5:4, for faithfully teaching God's word. Faithfully teaching God's word, a sacrificial test because you're faithfully serving others. And I put in there, woe is me if I don't preach the gospel. Woe is me. And that doesn't mean you have to be a pastor or a missionary to do that. You could be your neighbor and just says, hey, did you ever read the Bible? You know what it says? You're just telling people about the Lord. You're trying to reach them. You're saying, and you know, if there's anything that I'm repetitious in my prayer, I always pray, Lord, may you be glorified. I pray that you might be pleased. I say this almost every time I pray. I want him to be pleased and that you might receive the glory because you alone are worthy. He's the only one worthy. So we could lay this back at his feet. And then the last one was the one we're studying right now, the crown of life, found in James 1:12 and Revelation 2:10, for being faithful during times of testing, even if it's to the place where you're killed. So no matter what you're going through, you're going to remain faithful to Jesus. And what does he say in Revelation 4:10? What are we going to do with these crowns? We're going to lay them at the feet of Jesus. Anything that he's done, anything we were able to do for him or serve him, we're going to lay these at the feet of Jesus. And I'm looking forward to that. So, ask yourself this. When my life is over, do I want to lay anything at the feet of Jesus? Now's our time. Now's our time to do that. Do you want to finish well? There are so many people in the Bible that did not finish well. I hope that we all say, no, I want to finish well with this. Okay, so they're the crowns, and then everything we do is for His glory. When we die, okay, I'm going to put this statement down because I wrote this. Do you know that you never lose the riches and glories you have in Christ? You never lose that. No one can take, no one can take their money with you. No one can take your possessions with you. No one can take their cars with you. When you die, there is nothing you can take with you except for the crown that you win here for Him. There's nothing we can take with us. Nothing. It says in 1 Timothy 6:7, we brought nothing in this world, and it's certain that we're not going to carry anything out. Way back in Genesis chapter 3, verse 19, God said, Adam, to dust you are, to dust you're going to return. Every single thing we do, every single thing we do will remain. So if Jesus came today, or if all of us say something fell in this church and we all died today, the only thing that we can take with us, is what we did for Jesus. Everything else is gone. Everything else is completely gone. So we ask ourselves, what am I holding on to that's preventing me from serving the Lord with all my, what am I holding on to? What's taking my time away? Is the rich things and all the toys I've accumulated over all this time, and I gotta spend time playing with them, because if I don't, I wasted all this money buying it, and we just need, whoa, let me turn around here. That doesn't count for eternity. What counts for eternity? What can I do with any time that God has given me? What do I have left? What can I do, Lord? What can I do? Is there anything? Open my eyes, please. Just pull back, open my eyes and let me see the needs of someone or people. Or I'm so thankful for Gary's Garage that, Haiti can't even eat, and we're supplying them food to eat. And they're leading people to Christ almost weekly. You see, that's what's going to last. That's the things that last. And if we want to receive a crown, the key word for receiving a crown is this word. Here's the word. Faithfulness. You've got to be faithful. You've got to be faithful in doing. Remember the faith chapter in Hebrews 11? It says, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And it says, he who comes to God must believe that He is, and He's a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. Hebrews 11:6. He's what? He's a rewarder of them, to them who diligently seek Him. Lord, let me spend time with You in Your Word. Let me spend time with this, because I want to cast Your crowns. I want to cast them all at You. When we get over to, turn to Revelation 3, we'll get this when we get to the church at chapter 3, verse 11. The church of Philadelphia, look what he says. Chapter 3, verse 11. He says, let me get there again. Okay, there, before. Do you have it up, Carl? Yep. Oh, thanks. He says, look, behold, I'm coming quickly. That means when He comes, it's going to be fast, imminent. Hold fast what you have, that no one wants. No one take your crown. Don't let Satan or anybody else, don't let a family member, don't let anybody take your crown. You stand firm in Me. You just follow Me. You just continue with Me. Don't let anybody take your crown. 2 John chapter 1, verse 8. Go ahead, Carl. 2 John chapter 1.
John 1:8. Or 2nd.
2 John. 2 John 1:8. Yep. Look what it says here. Look to yourselves that we do not lose those things which we worked for, but that you may receive a full reward. Stay at it. Stay at it. And when you realize that when you do it out of love, it's easy. And I said, when I do it because I love Him, it's because it's easy to do because I love Him. If you serve someone because you love them, it's a lot easier than if you hated them or I'm doing this because I love you. Carl, go to Revelation 22. I'll close here. Revelation 22:12. Revelation 22:12. Very end of the Bible. Jesus is closing up now. Look what He says. 22:12. He says again, behold, I'm coming quickly. And my reward is with me. Thanks, Lord. What was he going to do with that? To give to everyone according to his work. I'm the Alpha and Omega, the beginning. There it is again. I'm the beginning and the ending, the first and the last. What we do for Jesus is the only thing we can count. Now, oh man, what time is that? I have 2 minutes. Look at Revelation. Let's go back to Revelation really quick. Back to Revelation 2. I'll have to speak in this next week because this is going to take a couple minutes. After death, notice what it says. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit, this is verse 11, it says to the churches, he who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death. There's 2 deaths. We die physically, we die spiritually. Okay? Now think this through for a minute. Everyone that has not trusted in God, every single person that has never trusted in God has to pay for every sin they've ever committed. If you didn't receive Jesus' payment, you have to pay for every sin that you've ever committed for all eternity. The books are going to be open. Revelation 20. The books will be open, and everyone will be judged according to what they did in their body the whole time. From the time they were born to the time they die, they have to pay for all their sins. But if you receive Christ, guess what? Every sin is gone. That's a pinching moment. If you're not a believer, you have to pay for all your sins. No one paid for them. How can you pay for your sin? No one paid for them. But when you receive Christ, and you said, Lord, I love you. You died for me. Come into my heart. Save me. I repent of my sins. I want you to be my Savior. You're my Lord. Come into my heart. He says, I will do that. You know what I'll do? I'm going to take away every sin you've ever committed, and I'll remember that no more. So when we stand before God, He said to us, what sin are you talking about? That's washed by my blood. But anyone that doesn't receive them, guess what? They got to pay for it. That's why at the great white throne judgment, when the books are open, they're going to be judged according, it just says it right there, according to everything that they've done. Everything they've done. Whether good or bad, doesn't matter. And no one's going to say, unfair, time out, this wasn't right. Listen, isn't it a blessing to know for us, as believers, that every sin is gone? Every sin. Past, present, future, gone. But for the unsaved family members, neighbors, co-workers that we work with, they're going to have to give an account of every word, every thought, every action before God because they never called on Jesus to take it all away. That's what we gain by being a believer. And that's our pinching moment. Pretty good. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you so much for your word, and thank you for the power of it. I just appreciate how much the Spirit of God can work in each of our hearts individually. Your word says that he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says. Not what I say, but what the Spirit says. And the Spirit knows exactly where we are in our lives. The Spirit knows what we need. The Spirit knows what we need to hear. The Spirit knows what we need to do. And I just thank you that you work individually because it says he, not we. So Lord, I pray that each of us might hear individually what you say to us. Once again, Lord, I pray that you might have been pleased with everything said here. It's for your honor and glory that we do these things. I pray for the meeting coming up. May you be glorified through it all, and may the decisions that are made be honoring to you. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, everybody.